Hey, it's Friday. That means it's time for another mailbag. You're watching The Dot, presented by Matt Bowers Auto Group, and I'm Nick Underhill for NewOrleans.Football. As always, if you want your questions featured in the mailbag, join our Twitter community that's exclusive to NewOrleans.Football members. And if you aren't in there and you are a member of the site, let us know. We'll get you an invite and you can get in there and chop it up with other Saints fans. The first question this week comes from DJ, who asks why the team couldn't agree to terms with David Johnson. Was he asking for too much money? I'm not sure that there was enough that happened at this minicamp to really justify signing David Johnson over someone like Zigbo or Abram Smith. Granted, nobody's running between the tackles, there's no pads on, so it's hard to evaluate that element of the game. But those other two guys, I think, looked pretty decent throughout the summer camps. I think there's still room to bring in another veteran. But if there was a difference in money, I think it's kind of fair, given what happened out there, that the team wasn't really overextending itself to sign anybody at this time. I think David Johnson is somebody that would have been interesting to watch over time to see how he would fit in and what he would look like in pads. But based on what we saw, I share the same level of intrigue for the other guys that are already on the roster. So we'll see what they can do. But I do think there is still a major question to answer behind Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara at the top of the depth chart. Our next question comes from Kojo, who asks, what are Jameis's heat zones with the Saints and how do they compare to his Tampa Bay years? If you look at Jameis's throw chart from previous years up to last year with the Saints, it all aligns pretty much the same. He was one of the NFL's better quarterbacks on throws outside the tackle box. I think his passer rating was at the top of the league based on all the years he was with Tampa Bay through last year with the Saints. And then over the middle, it's a little bit cooler. You don't see as many throws connecting there. And that's just the nature of how he plays, having a big arm, being able to get the ball outside on out routes, deep down the field, on go routes, things like that. But yeah, throwing slants, crossers, and things like that haven't necessarily always been the biggest strength of his game. But I think that is something that we're going to see change, or at least the attempt to change this year, given the personnel on the field and based on what we saw at these summer camps. I think he's going to get a little bit better at some of that quick game stuff. I think the offense is going to incorporate it more. And I think all of that is going to go to help him be a higher percentage passer, because there's going to be easier throws to guys that just catch the ball 3, 4, 5, 6 yards away from the quarterback. So I think you're going to see some of that marry, but overall, you got to let Jameis do the things that made him the #1 overall pick and continue to be special throwing the ball down the field. And our last question comes from M223. Why won't the Saints ever make Zach Bond an outside linebacker or defensive end? Wasn't that his strength? Thought it could change with Dennis Allen. When they drafted Zach Bond, they did that with the vision in mind, and that vision was created by the defensive staff. That wasn't a Sean Payton thing. That was the defensive coaching staff thinking that Bond had the skill set to play in space and become an off-the-ball linebacker. I don't think that he fits what they do at defensive end. They like bigger, stronger guys there. They don't really like the speed edge rushers. They like people that can win with power, and I think Bond's a little bit undersized to do that. Now, granted, I think in some specific situations he could rush off the edge and probably have a little bit of success. But I think his fit and with his body type, he is probably someone that needs to figure out how to play at linebacker. Could he have a Rob Ninkovich type career somewhere? You know, he projects similarly. I like some of the stuff he did as a pass rusher in college, but I don't think that is his game in the NFL. So I think they got him in the spot where he needs to be to try to succeed. It would be interesting if he ever ended up in a different defensive scheme to see how he would fit into it and if he could have different success. But I think he just needs to figure out how to put everything together. And I do think for someone like him, coming in during the COVID season, not having that fundamental training that you get in OTAs and get in minicamp was something that really hurt him. So we'll see if building that foundation allows him to have more success this season, because this is really the first time he's been able to have the full developmental process going into a season. So I'm fascinated to see what he can do this year, as well as with some of those other guys who were taken in that draft class like Cesar Ruiz. That's it for this week's mailbag. We appreciate you guys supporting. We appreciate you guys watching. We will be back next week with another mailbag, and keep it locked to NewOrleans.Football for everything else all throughout the offseason.